Now, just quickly, we got intraday charts turning bullish yesterday. We've got daily charts now, momentum turning bullish today. NASDAQ 15-minute chart and the 30-minute chart at the 200 here and the 100 period there on the 30-minute chart, forming some divergences. If we pull back, then we might build further momentum going into the Fed pivot. You do have divergences going on here. Thing to note here, again, we dropped below the 200. It acted as resistance, just like the 10 period in the daily, and now we're getting back above it yesterday, remaining back above it. We'll see if we pull back towards these levels with these divergences or not. 15-minute chart up close for NASDAQ. It's a 30-minute chart, and again, lost that 100 and 200 period moving average. They became resistance. Got back above them, lost it over here. And again, notice the 100 period. You lost the 100 period. You lost it. You lost it. Rejection at it. Now you're getting back above it. If we pull back, then these levels might act as support, maybe the cloud or whatever. No guarantee we pull back. The best moves don't. But again, seeing signs of strength. And now we're getting the 50 back above the 100 here. So just some things I'm watching here on these intraday charts. Bullish events taking place there with the reversal on the intraday charts on Wednesday, and then now the follow through here on Thursday. But we're getting extended. You could see that on the MACD. So we'll see if we get a pullback or not. The best moves don't. Two scenarios. One was our bullish inside day for Monday after that huge sell-off with the jobs report there on Friday. Markets getting slaughtered last week. They almost fully recovered on the S&P, on NASDAQ this week. S&P is not quite there. I had two scenarios I was talking about. Bullish inside day scenario. That prevailed, and that scenario did play out, where I talked about a pullback going just a little bit lower and forming a bullish divergence here. That scenario did not play out. We got a higher low on NASDAQ, and now we've come back up here. See signals, momentum signals turned back to bullish on Wednesday. MACD went in positive territory. We got back above the 200 period moving average. Now the 50 is still below the 200, and the 10 is still below the 20 period in the daily time frame. So there might be a pullback, but we're seeing the cloud turn to green in the future. Again, like I said, I eventually think we're coming up here. The question is, do we go parabolic, or do we get a series of ups and downs, short-term price fluctuations on our way there? We'll be watching. Now, the lower high scenario assumes that this is a 5-leg push down. And again, if we do go to a new high, again, we have that other trend line that I've been talking about in the weekly time frame. If I'm wrong about this being a top, but again, I have the guts to tell you exactly what I think, but telling you that if I'm wrong about that we do have that trend line that would come into play again. This is what I think is likely the case. Again, we had those little bear flag patterns that had set up, tried to breach them. S&P only came back here to the gap fill from Friday's low. That was it. It was the bullish inside day for Monday. NASDAQ also broke the downward boundary, but then rebounded back up all in the same day there on Wednesday with the CPI data. Had those sharp sell-offs and then breathtaking parabolic rises where we really didn't pull back at all. But here, built our gap. We got back above the 200 period moving average. Now the 50 is getting back above the 200. But we're forming some divergences on the 5 and 15-minute charts, at the hour of the 30-minute charts. If we get a pullback or not, again, you might drop even back below the 200 period and retrace some of this. We'll see what happens. Best moves don't pull back. We have some divergences forming. Maybe they're not done yet. Maybe we still go a little higher. But again, we do have divergences that are forming on these intraday charts. Versions that had formed before a short trading week that gave us that brutal sell-off, the S&P's largest sell-off in a year, NASDAQ in 2 years. See what happens right here. I said 5-minute chart a moment ago, 15-minute chart here, sorry. S&P in the daily time frame, it's getting back above the momentum line, getting back above the cloud, the momentum cloud turning bullish into the future. So again, bullish inside day. There on Monday, we now have confirmation and a follow-through. We'll see if we pull back. We have the confirmation and follow-through if we pull back or not, or do we just start going parabolic? Watching if we just start going parabolic and we start seeing momentum turn back to bullish here, or if there's more work to be done and we get a pullback. The negative divergences that are forming on the intraday charts. Just because negative divergences are forming doesn't mean we're going to major pullback. The short-term time frames, that's what they are, very, very short-term. At a 4-day winning streak, we'll see if it continues or if we get some kind of pullback or not. And does this start going bullish? Friday confirming this move now. There's still more work to be done. Now, on the S&P 60-minute chart, again, we're becoming overbought now again. It could still form a divergence here and still go higher, but if we start to just roll over, we'll see if we get some kind of pullback. Again, momentum signals turn back to bullish intraday Wednesday, and then on Thursday in the daily time frame. Here we prevented, with the rally, we prevented the 50 from crossing below the 200. We had dropped below the 200, but then got back above it, above the 50 and the 200, and now they're trying to point upward. So we'll be watching if we get a pullback or not. We're becoming overbought. Please support the channel with the link directly below. That allows me to be able to provide you this information. If you like the chart, if you like the indicators, please let me know that by supporting the channel. If you could take a moment to do that, I would really, really appreciate it. Thank you for your consideration for that. We had the VIX down 3.5% today. It's pulling back and dropped below the 50-period moving average today. Stays below the 50-period moving average. That would be very bullish for the S&P 500. If we bounce off of it, then we get maybe some kind of pullback. Still have our 50 above the 200, so again, in a topping process. Earned with the CPI rally on Wednesday, and then today we see the daily chart. We see momentum signals flip and some trending signals. We got the cloud flipping here with NASDAQ in the daily time frame. You see the little blue line right there? It flipped from red to blue. We did that today. See the little arrow right there? These are signals, and also, this line that represents a short-term trend, it's flipping back to blue as we're getting above it. We'll see if we pull back or not. We're still in negative territory with momentum here, and we've had a huge, huge rally on the NASDAQ, recovering that huge loss we had the previous week. Watching to see if we get a pullback or not. Momentum has now flipped back to bullish in the daily time frame, validating what we saw on the intraday charts the day before with the CPI rally. Now look at the background on NASDAQ. Also, the background is turning back to green. We're getting this shaded area telling us that something is getting ready to set up over here. It took a little while, but when it did, it was this. Over here, the shaded area, when it completed, it was this. If we go back further, the shaded area right here told us something was going to happen. It did here and also here at the bottom. So again, we're getting another shaded area, but it's still under construction. This one took quite a while. This was shorter. So again, we'll be watching when the shaded area stops. Still going on today. But again, signals turning back to bullish. The cloud, the arrow, the momentum. Had that yesterday. Now we're getting it. NASDAQ daily chart. If we pull back, momentum could stay in negative territory. If we continue to start going parabolic, then needs to go into positive territory to validate the move. Now, same thing here on the S&P 500. Again, momentum flipping today. You see the little arrow. You see the little line is turning back. The momentum line is turning from red to blue now. Okay? Didn't flip the cloud yet like we did on NASDAQ. S&P hasn't fully recovered all of the losses there, the 4.25% drop. S&P's had a better recovery with help with NVIDIA. That big 7% rally we had yesterday, 8% rally. But same thing here, momentum is still in the negative region. We'll see if we pull back, and if we do, can the momentum signal remain bullish? The momentum line remain bullish. We're starting a gray shaded area where the suggesting something big is coming, but right now it's still under construction. And had the background remain green, even though we've had the pullback, divergence is up here telling us something was going to happen. But as I told you, we get a pullback and then go make new highs. I was looking for a bottom this week. I told you that last week, and I've told you that with our Insight Day on Monday. And this week, I'm looking for a bottom ahead of the Fed pivot. Maybe that's still under construction if we end up getting a pullback to test the lows here from Wednesday and from Friday. Point here is that momentum is officially shifting in the daily time frame. Now we have it on the intraday charts on Wednesday. Now on Thursday we get it here in the daily time frame. Now I told you that I was looking for a bottom this week and for signals to try to turn back to bullish at some point this week, surrounding the inflation data. Do two of those scenarios, push inside day or a slightly lower low, but I told you I was looking for Reversal this week. I was looking for a bottom this week. We now have it. We actually got confirmation and the follow through, and that has flipped momentum back to bullish in the daily time frame. If we pull back, signals they remain bullish, then we can still continue a bottoming process of building momentum to go higher. If we just start going parabolic, the best moves, as I said, don't pull back. But we got back above the 10-period moving average, as I talked about yesterday, but we stalled up at 20. I told you we could either pull back and then turn to bullish, or we could try to do it and get a confirmation and a follow-through. We got the follow-through move today. I was looking to see, and MACD is still not bullish here. I was looking to see if MACD would firm up, and if Awesome Oscillator starts to tick back up and getting green bars. That's now happening. So again, the question now is, do we get some kind of pullback and then go higher and the signals remain bullish, or just start going parabolic? Not either way. But again, the bottom I was looking for was confirmed. It confirmed. We filled that gap yesterday down from Friday's low, and then got that huge recovery, those wild price swings that we had with the CPI data, because the 50 basis point rate cut, it's gone. We get the rally. The Fed is getting ready to pivot, and we're likely going to witness, historically, we've witnessed a Fed pivot rally for several weeks. We're probably going to see the same thing here. We'll see if we pull back, and we'll see what happens. I'll be watching to see if these lows from Friday and from Wednesday now hold or not. Should we get a pullback? And like I said, the best moves don't. S&P daily chart here, and I told you at the beginning of the week, told you last week before, the previous week before this week, to be watching for a green bar. Why? Because I'm looking for diversions on the S&P 500. I'm looking for new highs. I told you we could bounce surrounding the 20-week and have validate Friday's low as a bottom. I told you that we could breach it a little bit and then bounce, but I told you I was looking for a bounce, and I was looking for a larger divergence to develop. This divergence gave us about a 10% sell-off. I'm looking for a new high, getting above the 10-week moving average. So again, everything I've talked about is now happening. Talked about this green bar forming. We're now getting it. And again, that causes me to believe we're going to even go higher, the rally that we've already seen, and again, make new all-time highs. You're hearing me say we're going to get a green bar and start crashing. You're not listening to what I'm saying. Saying we're going to get a green bar and form a divergence. Complete a topping process, likely start a reversal, and then usher in a bear market. We are in a topping process in all likelihood. At least that's what I believe. I think we're going to the upper channel line on that monthly chart that I keep showing you. NASDAQ in the weekly time frame, again, we still have a red bar, but we're getting above the 10 and the 20-week moving average. We're recovering from the sell-off we had the previous week, but we started the week off with that green bar. As I told you, I was watching for that, and again, causes me to believe we're going to fill that gap at 20,400. Again, I told you exactly what I think. I think that we peaked over here. Continue to believe that. I think we're getting an ABC move that will eventually take us to 20,400, but then I think we'll complete a topping process. A double top is what I think is forming on the NASDAQ. Now, if I am wrong about this being the top, there's another trend line that we slammed into, the same trend line, I should say, that we slammed into right here, directly above that, and we could still hit that. Just as we won't, and that the S&P and NASDAQ will diverge from one another. But this, again, causes me to believe that we will see the rally towards the 20,400 area surrounding the Fed pivot. Told you I was looking for a bottom ahead of that Fed pivot, which I think we now, in all likelihood, have. Weekly chart of the NASDAQ here. Now, look at the MACD. It's still in negative territory here on the daily chart for the NASDAQ. The Awesome Oscillator is still in negative territory, but we're getting green bars. Again, momentum has officially shifted. Saw the momentum line turn, NASDAQ and S&P, but again, we're getting the bullish reversal of conditions for momentum. See the little blue arrow? That's going to flip the cloud now. Closed above the cloud. Spent time yesterday in great length of detail telling you what to be watching for. Either we pull back and then this happens, or it happens immediately if we get the confirmation and follow through to the bullish inside day, which is the way it ended up playing out. If we pull back, again, we'll be watching. As long as we don't close below the lower boundary of the cloud, then remain bullish. Momentum will remain bullish. Watching to see if we hold above the 10-period moving average, or if we're going to get more choppiness to carve out a bottom here. Gives that we still test this low and try to test the 200 period moving average. We have a confirmation of follow through to our bullish inside day that we were watching. And again, now the signal back to bullish. Problem is the 10 is still below the 20 and the 10 and 20 are still below the 50. There might be more work to be done. We'll be watching, and then we'll be looking to see if these MACDs try to firm up. S&P is in positive territory, trying to firm up. NASDAQ still in negative territory, trying to firm up here. So signals, momentum signals, back to bullish. We'll see if they remain that way. Should we get a pullback? If we don't get a pullback, then we'll be looking for possible parabolic move in a measured type of a move. So we'll be watching to see how it unfolds with NASDAQ. Bottom I told you to be watching for. I think it has now been confirmed today. They're bullish inside days from Monday. A 4-day winning streak. We'll see if with Friday we start to get a pullback corrective move ahead of the FOMC meeting next week, which again is going to be our Fed pivot. Okay, we saw momentum shift back to bullish. I talked about this yesterday. Told you last week, again, I was looking for a bottom, probably surrounding the inflation data. We have that now. At two scenarios we're looking at, the inside day from Monday and the possible diversions on the hourly chart. The inside day scenario played out. The Dow was up 235 points, up 0.58% today, above 41,000. The S&P up 0.75%, up 41.5 points, just under 5,600. NASDAQ up 1%. The Russell faring the best, up nearly 1.25%. The VIX was down. The VIX was down by 3.5% to close just above 17. Now, I told you last week that I was looking for a bottom this week. I told you at the beginning of this week, looking for a bottom this week. And on Monday, we got that bullish inside day. I told you either we're going to establish Friday's low as a bottom with the bullish inside day. We had a 4-day winning streak now that has now done that. We've gotten a formation yesterday and a follow through today. I told you if we didn't confirmation to that pattern, that bullish inside day that we had on Monday, we could still come down and try to slightly take out this level and test our 200 and then bottom. But I told you one of those scenarios was likely going to set up a bottom this week. I told you I was looking for a bottom. Told you it could play out either way. We were watching to see if the bullish inside day would get confirmed or not. We did get confirmation with the CPI yesterday. We had that on the NASDAQ here. We had that 700 point swing. We sold off, went back, got a higher low, and then we confirmed by closing above this peak right here. And again, now we get the confirmation and the follow through. So again, a bottom is now confirmed. All likelihood, getting the confirmation and the follow through, going back up to the 50 period, we'll probably get a pullback. And again, as I said, I believe that we're going to get a Fed pivot rally over the next several weeks. I was looking for a bottom to be established this week. You heard say I'm looking for a crash this week. You're not listening to what I'm saying. Say I'm looking for a crash rather than I'm looking for a bottom. You're not listening. I told you again, signals had turned bearish a couple weeks ago on NASDAQ, and then the previous week on the S&P 500, I told you I was looking for a higher low. I was looking for bottom to form this week surrounding the inflation data, and we now have that. I told you the two scenarios, the bottoming scenarios that I was looking at, either the bullish inside day to establish Friday's low, or again, a push a little bit lower than that, and then a rebound. I told you those two scenarios was likely going to play out. Well, the bullish inside day scenario played out. Now, on Wednesday, we got intraday chart signals, the momentum turning back to bullish there, trending signals. Now we're getting the momentum flipping with the daily charts. I told you yesterday it didn't happen. I told you to be watching to see if it happens today or if we get a pullback and then it happens. I was looking for a bottom. Last week I told you this. At the beginning of this week I told you this. I'm looking for a bottom ahead of the Fed pivot, which is Wednesday, this coming Wednesday. They're going to begin to cut rates. I believe that we'll establish a bottom, which I think has now been confirmed and validated here. Probably get a pullback. No guarantee we do, but probably get a pullback. We've had a 4-day winning streak. If we get a pullback or not, the best moves don't. I was looking for a move and eventually, again, to come up here and fill this gap. If you've heard me say that I'm looking for a crash right now and hear me say I'm looking for a bottom, you're not listening to what I'm saying. If you haven't heard me say I'm looking for a rally, okay, Heard me say I'm looking for this massive sell-off and crash right now and not a rally back up to 20,400 to fill the gap. You're not listening to what I'm saying. Looking for a topping process to develop. Talked about the bottoming process that I was looking for in the two different scenarios looking for. I'm looking for this large double top pattern to set up. Just want to make sure you're listening to what I'm saying. We had that big sell-off of 5.89% last week. We recovered most of that in the last 4 trading sessions now, up 5.64%. NASDAQ. 10 is still below the 20, and the 10 and 20 are still below the 50-period moving average. We'll probably get a pullback. Again, I'm looking for a bottom. Now have a confirmed bottom, a confirmation and follow-through to the bullish inside day that we got on Monday that I talked about at great length and detail. Just want to make sure we're on the same page. Again, I'm not looking for a move to come back down and start crashing down here and taking out these lows and we're just going to see the bottom fall out. That's not what if you're hearing that, that's not what I'm saying. I'm looking for a topping process. And I'm reemphasizing this because, again, people only hear what they want to hear. And if you think I'm looking for crash right now, you're not listening to what I'm saying. I'm looking for a topping process right now. Not hearing me say that the S&P is going to go to new highs. You're not listening to what I'm saying. Hearing me say that NASDAQ is going to come up here to 20,400, likely overthrow it to test this high, but probably get a lower high. You're not listening to what I'm saying. Just want to make sure we're on the same page. Talked about all last week. I'm looking for a bottom this week. I talked about it all this week. I'm looking for a bottom. Whether go a little bit lower and bottom, whether the bullish inside day. I was looking for a bottom. We now have it. My signals are back to bullish. If we do get a pullback, no guarantee we do. Again, eventually, I think we're going up here. You're hearing me say we're about to get a crash and not a Fed pivot rally. You're not listening to what I'm saying. I want to make sure you're hearing what I'm saying because a lot of people, sometimes they only hear what they want to hear. They think happening. You can think we're going to have a crash right now. That's not what I think. I think we're going to go make new highs. So again, I just want to make sure you're listening to me carefully and what I'm saying. We are in a topping process. We are not in a crash right now. We are in a topping process. New highs on the S&P. I expect the NASDAQ is going to come up here. I was looking for a bottom this week. I don't have that. Had a powerful sell-off the previous week. We now get a powerful rally back up on NASDAQ, covering most of that. So again, if we get a pullback or not, the best moves don't. We'll see what happens. I do want to say this again. I believe that we're in an ABC corrective move, and I think that eventually, again, we come up here to complete wave C, okay? And maybe we pull back, maybe we don't. Looking for this major move. Right here, we didn't get really any kind of a pullback. Maybe we see something like that. Maybe we get a pullback and we get a different price structure with this next leg up. I don't know. Regardless, doesn't matter. This is where I think we're going. How we get there, there are different roads that can be traveled there, whether pullback or whether we just start going parabolic like we did over here. We'll see which way it plays out. But regardless, this is where I think we're going. The bottom I was looking for has now happened, and we got a confirmation of fall through a 4-day winning streak after that 4-day 5.89% decline last week. We have a gap filled directly overhead here. So again, we'll be watching that, and we'll be watching to see if we get a pullback or not. Again, the best moves don't pull back. No parabolic, or do we pull back? We'll see which way it unfolds. I think we will rally into, in all likelihood, early to mid-October over here. I think we're going to get a Fed pivot rally, as I keep saying over and over in every single video. Not a Fed pivot crash, a Fed pivot rally. I think we're going to get a Fed pivot rally. I've talked about this at great length in detail because historically that has been what has happened. Get the first rate cut and you tend to see a rally for a few weeks. It's been 3.5 weeks with the last 2 rate cuts that began the bear markets. Not that the rate cuts start the bear market. They're associated with the recession, and the market begins to price in the recession. Rate cuts don't cause the market to crash. The rate cuts are happening because a recession is coming. The stock market drops because a recession is coming. This is the S&P 500. Again, we had a bullish inside day. I talked about this on Monday. I told you that if it plays out and gets confirmed, then Friday's low may be it. Again, this week I was looking for the stock market to bottom. If we went a little bit lower, we went back and filled the gap right on the nose there and then went up. But I told you if we went a little bit lower, you got that 100 period moving average, the 200 period on the NASDAQ. We saw confirmation with the rally, with the CPI rally on Wednesday. We got the follow through and we closed above the 20 period moving average. The 10 is below the 20 and they're both above the 50. But again, we'll see if we get a pullback or not. And I believe that we're going to go fill this gap eventually, which we didn't do right here. We had a divergence and it gave us a pullback, which I told you that's what I was looking for. Last week we saw the S&P drop by 4.25%. We didn't recover all of that. NASDAQ came closer to doing it with the 4-day winning streak we've had here. But again, you're hearing me say the S&P 500 is about get a Fed pivot crash. You're not listening to what I'm saying. I'm telling you, again, I believe the S&P will go make new highs above this level right here. Could pull back. See what happens. Now, one scenario out of a pullback, and this would be if the historical scenario doesn't play out where we get a Fed pivot rally, which again, I think is likely. There's all this, matter about, we're going to get a 50 basis point cut, and I mean, these are the same people that were saying, we're going to get 7 cuts at the beginning of the year. 7 cuts. Out of touch with reality. Now, again, excuse for this sell-off. We're the jobs report and off the previous week. We're not going to get a basis point cut. And again, these people are just delusional. The Fed, they're saying, the Fed's going to drop rates down to nothing immediately. The Fed can't do that. Inflation will come roaring back. They won't do it. That's the difference. And I keep talking about this. People go, the Fed cut rates and the markets took off, man. And with the pandemic, through all the stimulus at it, they took rates down to nothing. They can't do that right now. Now, maybe later they can do it. A recession, risk of inflation starts going away because, again, the Fed needs a good recession to deal with the inflation problem. People have it in their minds right now that it's going to cut rates and the markets are just going to, soar. The Fed can't cut rates aggressively. They do later. They can't do it right now. Start a rate cutting campaign. Not going to take right now down to nothing. They start a bunch of QE right now. That's inflationary. The problem with the inflation is the Fed and their policies. QE was inflationary. In their balance sheet, the federal government passing out $6 trillion in checks, that was inflationary. People they said they were trying to help are now in a world of pain because the old saying goes, I'm here from the government, I'm here from the government, I'm here to help. They ended up hurting all of those people and creating this inflation problem. Just understand the Fed, their hands are tied right now. They can't just drop rates down to nothing and start, be infinity and beyond right now because inflation will come roaring back. I don't want to repeat performance of the 1970s. All wants is legacy. Just understand. Now, again, if we get this initial disappointment, we don't get, there's so much hype going into it. We're going to get a 50 basis point rate cut. Start seeing signals revert back to bearish. Then maybe something else is going on. But right now, the signals I told you to be watching for, I told you to be watching for the signals to turn back to bullish ahead of the Fed pivot. That's now happened. Happened yesterday with the intraday charts, happened today with the daily charts. Probably see a pullback, but again, my guess is the S&P is probably going to likelihood go make new highs surrounding the Fed pivot and probably top and complete a topping process. Now, let me just say this. The fact that the moving averages are still in a bearish position gives pretty good odds that we're probably going to see some type of pullback. But like I said, the best moves don't. Again, we just went parabolic here. We could see something like that. Again, I am looking new highs on the S&P 500. We'll see how it unfolds here. Again, as I've said in every single video, I think we're going up into the upper channel line all the way back to 1929. Now, the S&P trading in 1957, we have the compiled data going all the way back for the 1929 peak. So we have a really nice looking channel there. So again, that's where I think we're eventually moving to, take us somewhere between the mid 5,700 area or so on up into 6,000. Those telling us we're going to be going to 6,500 and 6,800 and all these other things. Well, you got a major trend line to deal with there that's at around 6,000. Include the shadows. So again, there's some major stiff resistance there. Just quickly, here is that long-term monthly chart. Here is that long-term trend line. The red trend line excludes the shadow from the 2,000 top. The black trend line includes it. If we hit the red trend line, we're looking either here in September, this month. This is a monthly chart, either this month or on into early October. We're looking at the 57, 5,800 area. If we get above the red trend line and include the shadow over here, then you're looking at the 59 to 6,000 area here or so, depending on again if we reach it in September or October. If we reach it in October, you're closer to the 6,000 level there. So again, those are the target levels. And I was looking for a bottom this week. We now have confirmation and a follow through to that. We're moving back today. Today, we are moving back into a risk-on environment for the market, going away from the pink, the red there, and moving back to the green. Yesterday, we saw the S&P trend move back to bullish, as well as the risk line turning back to bullish with the CPI rally. So now we're moving into a risk-on environment today. Other signals turned yesterday. Confirmation to the bullish inside day from Monday. Now, I told you yesterday that the intraday charts, momentum in the trend shifted back to bullish on the intraday charts. Told you yesterday momentum had not yet shifted in the daily time frame, to be watching to see if it did today with the PPI or later this week or ahead of the Fed. But I told you I was looking for signals to begin to turn back to bullish ahead of the Fed pivot next week. We got that yesterday with the intraday charts, and we got it today with the daily charts, the momentum turning back to bullish. RSI going back into the positive region. And again, yesterday saw the sell-off and then the rebound back up. And again, we saw momentum line and the cloud shift here in the 4-hour time frame. On those 60-minute charts, we saw momentum also turn to bullish. S&P 4-hour chart here. We'll see if this stays this way. If we get a pullback, again, the best moves don't pull back, but S&P is getting overbought now after getting oversold last week. That 4.25% drop. Now we're getting overbought. So we'll see if we pull back. Not. But again, I'll be watching to see if momentum and trend signals remain bullish here or not. They flipped to bullish in the daily time frame now. So even if we pull back, the daily signals are probably going to remain bullish now. Same thing with the NASDAQ. Again, CPI rally, we had sold off. We saw a 700-point swing on the NASDAQ. We dropped 300, over 300 points, and then we ended up closing up over 400 points, 700-point swing after that big 5.89% drop the previous week, and signals have been bearish prior to this for the 2 weeks, the previous 2 weeks there. S&P signals turned bearish after NASDAQ on that short trading week surrounding Labor Day. But again, positive territory, signals flip back to bullish. Now we get a confirmation and follow through to our inside day on the daily chart. So again, we'll be watching to see if we get a pullback or not. If we do, I'll be watching to see if these signals can remain bullish or not. But daily signals likely to remain bullish. If they don't, then Fed pivot rally is at risk. Can't see the signals remain bullish on the daily chart. These signals